Mizuno are back with a new JPX iron range. So what are the different models and what are the differences? And which one should you be putting in play? Let's go find out. So there are 3 models in this year's JPX range: the Hot Metal, the Hot Metal Pro and the Hot Metal HL. Now Mizuno are aiming to cover 3 different target markets here, and there's kind of a clear consumer or type of golfer that will fit into each different design. Now the Hot Metal is kind of the main model in this range, and that's designed to be the one that's the most forgiving and also gives you the most distance. I guess it's like the best blend of performance in the set. Then we move to the Pro, and that's designed to deliver that package but in like a smaller, sleek, more compact look for maybe someone who just prefers a smaller club, maybe a slightly lower handicap golfer. Lastly, we've got the HL, and I think this is really interesting because this is designed to deliver more spin and more height, which isn't something we see that often in an iron option. So if you're someone who hits it low, struggles to get the ball to stop on the green, this could be an option which would be really great for you to try. So let's go hit them all and see if those 3 things are true, if we see the differences in the range and how these get on. While you're here, I would really appreciate if you could hit that subscribe button. Over 75% of people who watch this channel aren't actually subscribed, and it makes a huge difference in terms of what content we can create and what opportunities we have and what videos we can bring to you. So if you could, hit that subscribe button. While you're there, you might as well hit that like button too, and drop us a comment. What's been your favourite equipment that we tested recently, or is there something else you'd like to see on the channel? Right, back to the video. Okay, so I'm going to hit all 3 models through the bag. We've got a split set, so I'm going to hit 9, 7, 5, starting with 9 iron to warm myself up. What I like this year about the new additions is they've added this like different colour coding in, so on the back of each club it's kind of clearer which model is which. We've got the Pro here down in the black, then we've got the Hot Metal in the white and the HL in the blue, so you can kind of more easily pick out which is which I think is really good. But then overall, like, the design language is very similar, so you don't feel like you're getting a different club. Let's start with the Pro, because that's definitely my favourite in terms of profile. So these models are all multi-material construction for the first time, so it's going to be interesting to see how that affects things like spin. I would expect it to kind of increase launch, but maybe bring spin down a little bit. I think what's surprising is how soft Mizuno managed to make these feel. I know obviously that's what they're known for, but these are a lot bigger, there's a lot more tech in there, tungsten weighting, etc. You kind of expect them to feel a lot different. And I'm not saying they feel as soft as a Mizuno blade, but they do feel really nice, which I think is a big plus for some of those like kind of bigger irons in the back. That stopped super quick on the green, literally 1 hop and stop, which is always nice to see. So that's carried 139.6 yards. Which is probably a little bit longer than I would expect with my own 9. Usually I'm looking about like the 134 mark, so maybe like half a club further, which is pretty good. That's what I'd want from a club that's slightly thicker than what I generally use. Spin rate is 6,642, so I still think that's pretty high for a multi-material construction. And then it was paired with the land angle of 40.8. I might have expected that to be a bit higher, but actually it stopped just as quick as I needed to on the green, so seems to be working so far. So again, pretty similar in terms of carry, 137.5 yards. The height was up at 81 feet, which I think is pretty good for a 9 iron. And there actually the land angle got steeper, so 45 degrees. Pairing that with 6,254 spin, that's going to be really good in terms of stopping power. So I like that. Good distance, a little bit of a game for me. Soft feel off the face, and it's stopping really quickly. Let's see how that compares to some of the other models. Okay, Hot Metal. I don't think this is too drastically different in terms of sizing. Probably heel to toe, it's a little bit longer. Top line doesn't look too much different, and actually there doesn't look to be loads difference in terms of offset, which is probably definitely a preference for me. I don't need any help getting the ball to go left. I can nearly hold that, literally hit that to like 2 foot. Does that make it the winner? Okay, so the data here is looking pretty similar. 137.7 yards in terms of carry, 75 feet in terms of height. It has actually spun up more, 7,192 on that, and a land angle of 42.2. So not massively different from the other one. Though in 9 I think you would see the smallest gap in them all. I generally think I start to see more changes from like 7 iron up, and that's kind of what you want, because you don't really need your short irons to suddenly be boosting loads of distance out. Those both have gone dead straight though. So that was slightly shorter, 134.5 yards. Still really high spin, 6,864. Height a tad lower, 69, which was again bringing that land angle down to 40.8, but all in all, pretty consistent. I'm not sure I can pull a difference out between those two irons so far. Let's go hit the HL. It'll be really interesting to see if this flies higher and what happens with the spin here, given this one's designed to kind of go the highest and spin the most for people who need like more launch and stopping power. Now I suspect because I have enough launch generally, I might hit these a little bit shorter if they suddenly launch really high. Presumably they must be weaker lofted to go higher. These definitely do look a tad bigger, and like the front is more square than the others. Definitely more offset too. I call that tad skinny and it's still got good height. Carry down a tad, 125.4. Spin 7,930, which is really good for this kind of build. It's the highest we've had so far. Height 72, wasn't necessarily my best strike. Land angle 43.7, so you can see there's a little increase in the land angle there and the spin. It's definitely going to help people who hit it low and find it really hard to stop the ball on the green. That one definitely flew higher, but I can kind of see on the green they're not quite carrying as far. So that was 129.8, so a little bit longer, but still not up in the 130s like I saw with the other clubs. 74 feet in terms of height, again over 7,000 spin, and 43.1 land angle. So I can definitely see a little bit there. It's kind of helping you in terms of launch, land angle and spin, which I think is going to be really key for the kind of player that wants this club. Let's go hit some longer irons, see if the differences get a bit bigger there. Right, we're up to 7-iron now. It's going to be interesting to see the changes here because across all these sets from 7-iron to 4-iron, they have extra tungsten weight in here in the toe. Now, in theory, that should help in terms of forgiveness. We're getting more weight on the perimeter, but also I think it could help in terms of distance and launch. Again, starting with the Hot Metal Pro. I do like how they've kind of made these a much more compact size. I would say the top line's probably a little thicker than I'd usually use, but I think because the size and the shaping is more compact, you feel like you don't mind the top line being a bit thicker. Okay, so that's carried 162 yards, which again is probably like 7 yards longer than what I would expect out of my own iron. Generally I'm looking for like 155 out of my 7-iron with my current set. The height's up at 70, so I'm pleased with that. It stayed pretty consistent from what I saw with the 9. I like to kind of see the height stay the same through the bag. Land angle 37.6, I did hit that a little low, and spin 4,743. That was better. Dead at it. Okay, so that one definitely flew higher. That got up at 89 feet, which is definitely more I'd like to see it. I'm trying to kind of get near to 90 with all my clubs at the moment, although I'm just hitting it a bit low in terms of my swing technique currently. So this is definitely helping me out there. 165.8 spin, so that's like a good club longer. That's like my normal 6-iron. 4,578 to spin, paired with 45.2 land angle. That's going to give me really good stopping power, and I could see that on the green because it stopped really quickly. Let's swap into the Hot Metal and see the differences. Now, what's definitely going to be a factor here in terms of the data is every club has a different shaft in it. Now, I've obviously sent that stock because each club would have a different shaft. You're not going to give someone who wants a high lofted iron the same shaft as you would in the kind of Pro. But in terms of testing and showing different models, it's not necessarily the best. So in the Hot Metal here, I've got KBS Tor Light in reg. Then in the Pro that I was just hitting, I've got a Dynamic Gold 105 stiff. And then in the high lofted, I've got a Dynamic Gold 95 reg. So we do need to bear that in mind in terms of some of the comparison numbers. I think probably we're not going to see as big a difference as we would if I kind of put my stock shaft in like every option. That Pro went pretty far. Don't really feel like I'm going to see a club go further than that. I do sometimes find if I prefer kind of the look and it's smaller and compact, I do swing it a bit quicker and then hit it further. Even though technically maybe I should hit one of the other clubs further. And that's why you should get fit and try all the models. That definitely didn't fly quite as far. 158.1 yards in terms of carry, so a little bit longer than my current one, but not loads. 4,121 spin, so a tad down on what we saw with the Pro. That's kind of what I would expect in terms of the difference in tech. 78 feet, so still pretty decent, and 42.3 land angle, so still all very controllable numbers. Now these still feel solid, but I'll say they feel a little bit firmer than the Pros. It's definitely kind of a tad noticeable difference in terms of that sound and feel. That one was a better strike. It got up to 164.2, spin 4,615, height 76, and land angle 41. I feel like they're all performing quite well. The Pro's definitely the standout so far, but there doesn't seem to be a huge difference yet. We can definitely see quite a noticeable difference in offset at this point. It feels like this HL option has just a lot more of that. Top line noticeably thicker as well. Tell you what, that felt the easiest to strike though at this point. It's gone very high. Yeah, that carried up at 85 feet, which is back with like some of the highest shots I've hit. Possibly not gone quite as far, 158.5 yards, but I'd still be really pleased with that, my 7-iron to be honest. And the spin's actually popped up from what we've seen with the other models, so 5,236 with a land angle of 45.4. So what's definitely clear here, and I think the biggest difference across these is that the HL flies higher and spins more and has a really good consistent land angle, which is definitely I think what people need out of this club, and this is probably the model that needed the biggest variance in terms of those factors. Tell you what, if you struggle to hit it, these are definitely the best option because they feel so much easier to hit than the others. That was a tad lower, 75 height, but still got up to 162.9 yards in terms of carry, 4,650 in terms of spin, and the land angle is still up at nearly 42, so feels like this one is definitely going to be the one that gives people the most help. Okay, we're on the 15th at Scarcroft now. Par 3, 170 yards, but straight up the hill, so that's where I need a little bit of help from these 5-irons. Generally I hit my 5-iron like 173, 174 carry, so I'm going to need a little bit of a boost, I think, to get all the way back up that hill. Now these are designed this year with 30% thinner faces than we've seen from previous Hot Metal ranges, so hopefully that's going to get me this little boost. We've also got multi-face thickness, so the faces are not consistently the same thickness, they're different all over the face, and that's to boost ball speed in areas where maybe the toe or the heel, if you don't quite strike out of the middle. Now my one little niggle at this point is I feel like I can see the back of the club head outside the top line, and that's just my one thing I don't love visually when it gets to longer clubs. Oh, that was so good. That was such a solid ball flight, and it's like easily got there and just checked up. So that's carried 180.7 yards. The spin was 3,161. I think people may think that's too low for a 5-iron, but you remember there's quite a lot of tech in this head, and it's still gone up to 72 feet in terms of height and come down with 37.2 land angle. So it is going to stop quick enough, and we've seen that there, it did stop dead. But it's slightly uphill, so that probably did help a bit. I loved that ball flight though. That felt so easy to hit. It was very powerful. I think you just want that little bit of consistency like that in your 5-iron, don't you? Like if I hit my 5-iron like that every time, I'll be so happy. Okay, it didn't strike that quite as good, but it still got up to 177.8. Spin 3,397, height 65, definitely saw that in the strike, and land angle 35.6. But generally if I was flying a 5-iron like 178 yards, I'd be fairly happy with that. Okay, next up, Hot Metal. Based on just the tech, I would maybe be expecting this to go a bit further, but we haven't necessarily seen that so far. You know, it's a pretty similar ball fly, but it doesn't feel like it came out quite as fast. I think it's pitched just short of the others. Yes, that was 173.8 yards. Interestingly, more spin, 5,165, which is a lot with this kind of bigger 5-iron. 73 in terms of height and 40.3 land angle. I mean, these are all very, very playable numbers. I just think for a club head this size, I would want more distance out of it to justify using the bigger build. Having said that, I know I'm just a bit weird and visuals play a massive part to me, so it might be that someone else gets loads more distance out of it. You can get this because sometimes people see a club that looks different and they kind of present it differently. So maybe like I'm adding a bit of loft compared to what I do with another club. My attack angle is not quite as steep, so then I'm not getting like the maximal distance out. That was a bit longer, 178.2 yards. Spin dropped a tad, it was a little pulley. 4,141. Land angle still 38.5 and the height was still 71. So let's see what the difference is when we now move to the high launch model. Okay, this is definitely a big club head. You can see a lot of like the back badge and then the top line. And there's a lot of offset. This could be interesting. It went so high so easily though. I mean, it's just made the front of the green, so it's definitely shorter than the others, but it was also definitely easier to hit high. So that was up at 80 feet, which is definitely higher than what I've seen with the other 5 irons. Carry 172.8, spin up at 4,600, so still really good spin numbers for the size of the head. Like, I'm really impressed with that. I'm not entirely sure how they've done that, because usually as the club head gets bigger, the spin just goes through the floor. Land angle 42.3, so also again a really steep land angle on the green. So I think really if you're someone who's looking for something that you want to stop quicker, you want to be able to get control, these are really going to work well. Okay, so didn't strike that quite as well, so the height came down 5 feet, 75 feet. Still managed 172.1 in terms of carry distance. Spin again a little bit lower because I just didn't quite strike it, 3,462, and land angle 39.3. But I think for that to only be 39 on like a not very good strike is pretty good. All in all, like, this iron is probably the one I've been most impressed with in terms of kind of doing what it says on the tin. It definitely adds a lot of spin, which is really interesting. I think Mizuno have done a great job there, and it adds a lot of height and stopping power. So if that's something people are looking for, and that's something I see all the time from club golfers, you know, they can get the ball to the green, but it's not stopping and it's running through the bag. These are really going to help, especially when it gets firmer in summer. After that, I would say I really love the Hot Metal Pro. I really liked the performance there. I basically gained a club through the bag in terms of distance, and that was pretty consistent throughout the bag. I like the smaller shaping of that, I like the style, and I like the fact that they're a bit bigger but they still feel like a pro style club. I like the fact they give me a little bit of help. Those 5 irons I hit here were like money, and they would really help me in terms of consistency out of the golf bag in kind of those long clubs. I mean, I do feel like I could probably game a full set of them. Realistically, maybe I wouldn't, because I'm a bit picky when it comes to like wedge 9/8 iron. I perhaps would like something with a smaller sole, but actually I could play them through the set and they performed really well. I think I would have to test the Hot Metal again in kind of a different shaft, because it performed pretty similar to the Pro, but I think some of that comes down to setup. Overall, Mizuno have done a great job with this range again. They're giving you that extra distance forgiveness and height and spin in some cases, but still kind of delivering on that kind of Mizuno trademark of feel. Let me know what you thought and if there's any that you're going to be trying out.